Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the House's third annual JEDx.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Reicin, who is quite the mover and shaker on Bay Street. Cheryl is a partner at Torrey's LLP and chair of its Life Science and Technology Group. She was named one of Canada's top 25 women of influence and has been placed in numerous international and national rankings for her work in biotech law. And yet she still manages to find time to sit on numerous boards and committees for Jewish organizations. It is my pleasure to welcome Cheryl to the stage.
Life goes by in the blink of an eye, and you already know that, right? Ages 0 to 25 went by so fast, and I cannot prove this mathematically, but ages 25 to 50 go by much, much faster. So what would you do differently if you had no tomorrow? It's a really interesting question that I was forced to think about when I was 26 years old. I was a lawyer on Wall Street. You can tell by my American accent. I didn't start out here. And I was doing well, and I was having fun, but I don't know, something was missing. I wanted something a little more meaningful. So I took my vacation time. I went to Israel. I wanted to be part of the Zionist dream, see how that would fit in. And on my way back, I stopped for a few days in Rome to do some sightseeing, and I boarded an Air Italia flight to get on back to New York. And I was a little jittery because in 1986, there was a spat of hijackings and bombings. And a few weeks before I got on this flight, the Abu Nidan group, which was an offshoot of the PLO, had hijacked a flight and had actually separated out any passenger with a Jewish name for special treatment. So I must say I was a little jittery to get on that flight, but you know what? I got on, and it was pretty good for about 3 hours. 3 hours, we were over the Atlantic, and the flight attendants came thrashing through the cabin, frantically opening all the overhead bins. They were searching for something, and they weren't finding it. And when they couldn't find it in the overhead bins, they asked us to get out of our seats, and they took knives. Yeah, we could have knives on planes then, and they slashed our cushions, again looking for something. So people want to know what is going on. And a rumor started, and we were told that in the bathroom there was a note that said there is a bomb on board and you're all going down. Finally, the pilot got on board, and he said, we're turning around towards Europe, and we're going to try to find a place to land, but it's going to be at least an hour. So please stay in your seats and stay calm. So you can imagine, uncharacteristically for me, I got really quiet and really into my own space, and I had two main thoughts. The first was, if anything happens here, what's going to happen to my parents and my siblings? How are they going to survive this? And I'm not going to talk about that. Actually, Linda is going to talk about that. The second thought I had is, how did I do in my life? What is what's my score here? Did I move the dial? So, I was pretty proud of myself. I went to Columbia undergrad. I went to Harvard Law School. I got a job in a big Wall Street firm. I was doing well. But in terms of moving that dial, what did I accomplish in life? I said, that is a big zero, Cheryl. Okay, so what else was I sort of proud of, or that people would describe about me? I was really athletic. Well, that was another big zero. So, we spend a lot of time talking about it, thinking about our appearance, maybe my gender a little more than the other gender, and I was thin. So again, that was a pretty great thing, I thought, when you're, in your 20s, but again, it was another zero. So I was really desperate to find something that would give me more than a zero. And, I reminded myself that I chaired the UJA campaign at my law firm. I did some volunteer activities. So I gave myself a few points. But I didn't give myself many points because my parents are very involved in the Jewish community, and I was doing what was expected of me. Nothing more, nothing less. So I made a promise to myself, and yes, also to God. I reached out to God, and I said, if you get me through this day, I promise I will try to get my score up. So, as luck would have it, I did make it through another day, and I got back to New York, but I had to figure out how to get my score up. And I had to think about how I was going to do my calculation differently. So my calculations were anything that is inherited, brain, if he's so brilliant, 0. He has a great voice, he's musical, he's artistic, 0. He has family wealth, 0. So I said, that's the basis. It's a 0, but it's what you do with that basis. And if you have those attributes, you can do more, but you're expected to do more. It's like buying an expensive stock, right? If you buy a penny stock, it only has to go up a penny. But if you buy an expensive stock, you really got to do more. I also gave points for overcoming challenges, and we all have challenges. So I decided this was going to try to be my mantra going forward. My problem was that I had limitations. So what was my first limitation if I wanted to change what I was doing? I really valued financial security and financial independence. I didn't want to be dependent on anyone else. And I didn't need to be rich, though, okay? So that was a good thing. But why do I call it a limitation? Because it narrowed what I could do. So Rabbi Lipner, when he started his career, he was a high school teacher. So I wasn't able to do that because of my limitations. Then I thought about how much risk can I tolerate? Well, I'm sort of I'm a lawyer, so I'm sort of risk adverse, but I could take some risk. So I had to figure out, given my limitations, what could I do differently that would move the dial? So I went and I said, you know what? I had a client that had a therapy for cancer, and I said, boy, you know what? He really needs a lot of help, and I feel like I'm helping to move the dial. So I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on this area. Next slide. And then, I said, I want to, I took my trip to Israel. I want to get involved in those Israeli technology companies. A lot of them were biotech. And actually anyway, I won't get into it. This is a real client of mine. That's a virtual heart that flies above an operating table. Very cool. So my only problem was that in the 1980s, there was about 3 biotech companies, one of which had any money, and the Israeli high-tech scene was an aspiration. It was not a reality. So my colleague said, are you out of your mind? You have picked 2 areas where there's no clients, and if there are clients, there's no money to pay. But I decided that my risk profile allowed for this. If I had a smaller practice, but I found it meaningful, I could live with that level of risk. So the next slide, please. Beyond that, I said, you know what, I want to get more points, and I found I was very good at putting people together. In business, I'm a good matchmaker. I should have been an investment banker. But I found that maybe I could apply that strength in my personal life. And so I started introducing all of my friends to each other. And I have introduced 10 couples to each other. These are a few of the families. No divorces. No divorces, 1 in the works. A very stubborn guy, but we'll get him. Okay. Then I decided I wanted to do something for my community, and because I had the skill set in life sciences, I was able to help some Estee Lauder's Alzheimer's Disease Foundation, and a number I'm on 4 other foundation boards relating to a disease state. And I joined the board of Sick Kids, which has just been incredible. It's really an incredible hospital. But I wanted to do also something for my community. So some very creative professionals at UJA, including Robin Goldfein, came and helped me. Yes, you can clap for her. She's not here. Helped me start Genesis. And Genesis, this is where I get to leverage. Genesis is all about you, the next generation. So we can, and the first program that we have is on the next slide. It's a mentoring program, and it's one-on-one mentoring. We have so many successful people in the Jewish community, and we always ask them for a check. I'm asking them for something more valuable, their time, and to pass it on to all of you. So we have just hired our first full-time director, and I think she's here tonight, Alana Kafetz, and I wanted to introduce her. Alana, thank you. We're so thrilled to have her, and for anyone who does not yet have a mentor or a mentee and wants to, please feel free to contact either Alana or myself. Okay, the next slide. We also, again, I do a lot with startups, so I got a lot of my friends in the business community who support startups to help support some startup Jewish organizations in the not-for-profit area. And the next slide is we have had speaking series and some social time. So, I like this matchmaking business, so my not-so-hidden agenda was that maybe we'd have some matches out of this. And as it so happened, sometimes you have to wait a long time before you get some benefit from your efforts. But as it so happened, my stepson, Zeke Kaplan, came to give me moral support for the first event. And there was a lovely woman named Miriam Inbar who was also there. And this is a picture of them this is their engagement picture. And I am so thrilled to have Miriam as a daughter-in-law. So we have a very busy family. We're a blended family of 4 children and now 2 daughter-in-laws and a grandchild. And we're really running around. And when we're together during the week, there's a cell phone, there's a computer, there's a this, everyone's running around. And so what keeps me sane is my oasis, and that's the next slide, is Shabbat. And I really, this is how I really think of Shabbat. It's just great. I totally unplug. I do not work on Shabbat. I don't drive. And we can have a real conversation in the house without being interrupted. It's really terrific, and a number of people have asked, well, has that impeded your career in any way? And I can say with 100% certainty for myself that it has enhanced my career because I would never be able to keep this pace without connecting to myself, my family, and my community, and I know it's going to happen once a week. So I really thank you for allowing me to talk tonight, and I wish all of you a very find your passion, and I hope it's joyous and that it, most importantly, will be meaningful. Thank you very much.